everyone, I'm your host, Jerry Flores Panilla, and welcome to Happy Birthday, Mr. Shakespeare, with the Old Globe. For those of you that are watching us from far away across the internet, we are located in beautiful San Diego, California. We hope you'll come visit us when we open our doors to the public again, hopefully very soon. But in the meantime, for the second year, we are hosting our annual celebration of our oldest resident playwright right here in the digital hemisphere. So So we hope you're cozied up right now and are ready to enjoy a lot of love for the bard over the next hour or so. And maybe order yourself some cake. You deserve it. Actually, I'm gonna do that right now for myself. Give me 1 second. Anyways, for today's celebration, we have some fun things in store for you. Mostly inspired by our upcoming presentation of Hamlet on the Radio, premiering on KPBS on April 23rd, which is Shakespeare's actual calendar birthday. We just like to have our party on a non-school night, so we're kicking off his birthday week right here, right now. Woo! Anyways, what can you actually expect over the next hour and a little extra? Some really cool stuff. First off, we have interviews with technical giants in the theater industry and a look back at the Globe stage presentation of Hamlet in 2017. We also have performances from cast members from their favorite speeches and moments from the play, some special guest sonnet performances by USD MFA actors, and after that, we'll have a little Elizabethan Ruff-making craft workshop with me. And then we're gonna have a Hamlet fight demonstration from the original Hamlet fight choreographer, Jacob Regula Rosenbaum. Finally, a special Thinking Shakespeare talk with the Globe's own Erna Finchie-Petervi artistic director, Barry Edelstein. And since we have a lot of excitement packed into today, well, let's get the show started, shall we? Enjoy! And don't be afraid to say hello in the comments to let us know you're here, okay? See you in a bit.
Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Love is not love which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. Oh no. It is an ever-fixed mark that looks on tempests and is never shaken. It is the star to every wandering bark whose worth's unknown, although his height be taken. Love's not time's fool, though rosy lips and cheeks within his bending sickle's compass come. Love alters not with his brief hours and weeks, but bears it out even to the edge of doom. If this be error, and upon me proved, I never writ, nor no person ever loved. Hey, I'm Lily, and that's Sonnet 116. I love this sonnet because I think it really speaks to the power and truth of what love is. It's something that can withstand any circumstance, no matter how difficult it may be that time or anything in a person's life that may happen. Thank you.
The expense of spirit and a waste of shame is lust and action, until action, lust is perjured, murderous, bloody, full of blame, savage, extreme, rude, cruel, not to trust, enjoyed no sooner, but despise it straight, past reason hunted, and no sooner had past reason hated, as a swallowed bait on purpose laid to make the taker mad. Mad in pursuit and in possession, so had having, and in quest to have extreme, a bliss in proof improved a very woe, before a joy proposed behind a dream. All this the world knows well, yet none knows well to shun the heaven that leads men to this hell.
Nope. Time. Thou shalt not boast that I do change. Thy pyramids built up with newer might, to me, are nothing novel, nothing strange. They are but dressings of a former sight. Our dates are brief, and therefore we admire what thou dost foist upon us which is old, and rather make them born to our desire than think that we before have heard them told. Thy registers and thee I both defy, not wondering at the present or the past, for thy records in what we see doth lie, made more or less by thy continual haste. This I do vow, and this shall ever be. I will be true, despite bite thy scythe in thee. This is Sonnet 123, and it has special meaning to me in that it was the first sonnet that I ever did in undergraduate in my very first Shakespeare acting class, and now it is the sonnet I do at the close of my graduate school journey through Shakespeare. So it's sort of close to my heart and has followed me the whole way. And I love it because I think it really speaks to the power of artists to speak beyond their time and hopefully say things that the generations ahead can make use of and make change with.
Hola de nuevo. Hi, everyone. I am Valeria, a teaching artist from the Old Globe. And again, as you know, we're doing some awesome interviews with some super talented mega stars and mega designers and mega artists. And I have the privilege to do them. So you probably already know what we're talking about. We're celebrating the Bard himself. It's his birthday, so you know at the Globe we get super excited, and we actually are celebrating him today. So we're talking about Shakespeare, and with me today I have the honor to have Mr. Tim Mackabee with us, a wonderful scenic designer that he's been everywhere and done everywhere. But today we're going to talk in particular about theater. Hi, Tim. ¿Cómo estás? How are you?
Oh, I'm so good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
No, thank you, Tim, for taking a moment of your time to do this interview with us. We are super excited to have you and to listen to you and your perspective of what you do, in particular, or talk about Shakespeare, the birthday boy. So I usually put everybody on the spot. I'm sorry. I already apologized for it. But Tim, let's talk about you. I would love to have everybody there see and get to know you better. There's some questions that I usually ask to artists that keep us human, right? That makes us understand the human part of you and why you do this, right? The wonderful, magnificent world that you do. And tell me, Tim, what do you manifest through your art form, in this case, scenic design? What do you like to manifest in life through this?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a very big question.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing this my entire life in a way. Growing up, all I ever did was play set design as a youngest of kid. And the earliest parts of that, of course, to me were like puppet theater, doing shows in the garage. But it's always been about a physical world for me, going through high school, through college, through grad school. I've kind of always done the same thing in a weird way. I never thought, can I do that? Or should I do that? Or would I be good at it? I've always just done it. So in a weird way, it kind of found me, and it's just so powerful, I think, to be a part of the control of a story where you sit down with an audience now in 2021, tell any ranges of stories, and have people understand why that's so powerful at that moment. I mean, Shakespeare, of course, it's so easy with Shakespeare in many ways because it lasts forever, right? You can do Shakespeare today in so many ways. You don't need anything to do it. You could do it with a chair, a stool. You could do it with nothing. And you could do it in so many periods, and it can mean something so beautiful and powerful. And there's no, of course, I don't know of any other playwright with a catalog that can do that. But what I love the play part of it. I love inviting other designers and directors to look at a model and play like in a dollhouse. And the most exciting part to me was when an audience comes for the first preview. You've been talking about this show and forever and what it should look like and what the actors should look like and what the audience should feel and when they feel it and how you manipulate them, because it's all a manipulation, right? And then you get this group of strangers in the room and you learn if you did it or not. Did you fall flat on your face? If you did, can you fix it quickly? And which doesn't happen that often. And if you didn't, do they feel what you feel? And so many people want to, we're desperate now to get back into a room and be close to each other and to hear stories, these stories that just continue to drive our lives. And, that's really it for me. I've just always been intrigued by that. And for me personally, it's just been, what does the physical world look like? That's kind of my lens into it. What is the space these people are in? What does it feel like? What is the audience supposed to think about it? Does it help the play? Does it move the play along? If it's a bigger show like a musical, but if it's something, like Shakespeare, you don't need much, and what you put into it, I think, then becomes all the more important. Because when you're going to make a visual statement, what is it? What are you going to say?
Exactly. I love it, Tim. It's so inspiring. And that's why I love to ask that question, like those group of questions, because just to listen to you and actually how everything, like your body language change, you're like there remembering, and this is why I do it. This is why I love it. So this is me. So you started talking about a little bit about the actual process of working on a Shakespeare piece, right? So let's talk about the birthday boy, please. And let's talk about Hamlet, the actual piece that you did work with us at the Globe and that you did the scenic design of it. Talk to us about the process of how was working with Shakespeare, how was working with Hamlet.
Yeah. In the many things I've done in this world, I have to say Shakespeare tends to be the smallest catalog of my work, not by choice, just the cards of your life, I guess. I think this is my third or fourth Shakespeare play. So for me, it's one of those things where I am unlike, Barry, the director, and a lot of people at the Globe are so well versed in every Shakespeare play. For me, I have to go back and really revisit it and make sure. I've of course read them all, but like, what does it mean? Who are the people? And again, like I said earlier, what does Hamlet mean now? Why does Barry want to do Hamlet now versus 2 years ago? Or the old Globe? What someone has to say something at this point in time, and what is it? And I think Barry said, so many smart things, but like, it's about power. Who's got the power and what happens with reckless power? And I think that's a theme in a lot of Shakespeare plays. What does, I would say, uncontrollable power mean with people? And I'm not going to get into politics, but I think we can see today what that means. I think anyone can do a modern adaptation of what that means right now without a play. It's just dangerous, And so I think that was his thing, it's like, what does Hamlet mean in this year, in 2018, 2017? So that was very exciting for me. As soon as I can connect it to something happening today, even though I don't deal with what the people wear, I can see what Hamlet looks like. I can see what the other characters look like. And then the world oddly comes in around that. I don't think the world comes first necessarily. I think you have to understand the characters and kind of what they look like, and then the rest kind of starts to answer yourself. So it's really exciting for when I do Shakespeare, because it kind of puts me on edge. It's not, I don't want to say it's not my comfort zone, because it's design, it's the same tools as many other things, but it feels a little bit more important and a little bit more like, all right, I got to get this right, because it's not a play with an airplane and a hotel room and a bed and a sofa. In many other kinds of work, you get a lot of things answered for you. If it's a modern play, it's probably going to be modern, X, Y, and Z. But Shakespeare, again, it's nothing. So then what is it? And that can become stressful because you have to make a big decision right away.
I love it, Tim. I love how you remember it as it was yesterday, right? Like the whole experience of the process of what went through your mind doing this piece and working with the Globe and working with the magnificent director Barry as well, which was the first time that you both worked together, right? You were mentioning that before we started the interview.
Yeah, that's right. It's always an interesting kind of dance when you work with a director for the first time, because you can know people socially. Each person can know the other person's work. You can Google anybody, but it's a crapshoot in a way when a director and a designer come together at first, because you can love someone to death and then not get along or not agree. That I'm happy to report was not the case on this. But design is most design, costume, scenic, etc., is a visual medium, right? Eventually, you have to produce something.
Yeah.
A model, a costume rendering, an idea. So you can only talk for so long before you have to make something and kind of go, this, yes or no. And I think no is just as exciting as yes, because then it can lead you a different way. The best thing I think two collaborators can do is disagree. That's when the most exciting work happens. If everyone's just happy and everyone loves everything, the work is usually boring.
Yeah.
But if you don't agree and you have to talk about why you don't agree and why it's relevant, always leads to the most exciting work. But luckily, Barry and I got along. He had a very strong visual idea, and I got on board right away. I had no problems with it. So it became more about like, how does this show work in the space? And again, what does Hamlet look like? How does that dictate what the rest of the people look like? But it's always a tenuous kind of little song and dance until you're looking at something, It's always exciting because, I think directors and designers should work with new people. Again, I'm all for, collaborations over 50 years, but after a while, it's kind of going to be the same thing. So I always love when, be it theaters or directors or playwrights, mix it up and put new energy together, because it's always more exciting.
It's more fascinating, right?
Yeah.
As everything that you do, Mr. Tim. And we greatly appreciate we greatly appreciate at the Globe. This year, the last year has been different, our celebration of the Bard, but we still celebrate him, and we still try to do a magnificent work in doing that and presenting something to everybody at home. So thank you so much for making time for this great interview. Thank you for letting us know your perspective and your history that you have with the Bard and what you have with Hamlet and with the history that you have with the Globe. And hopefully we'll get to see each other pretty soon and see more of your work. Thank you so much, Tim. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Bye, everyone. See you in another interview.
How all occasions do inform against me and spur my dull revenge. What is a man if his chief good and market of his time be but to sleep and feed? A beast, no more. Sure, he that made us with such large discourse, looking before and after, gave us not such capability and godlike reason to fust in us unused. Now, whether it be bestial oblivion or some craven scruple of thinking too precisely on the event, a thought which quartered hath but one part wisdom and ever 3 parts coward, I do not know why, yet I live to say this thing's to do, sith I have cause and will and strength and means to do it. Examples gross as earth exhort me. Witness this army of such mass and charge, led by a delicate and tender prince, whose spirit with divine ambition puffed, makes mouths at the invisible event, exposing what is mortal and unsure to all that fortune, death, and danger dare, even for an eggshell. Rightly to be great is not to stir without great argument, but greatly to find quarrel in a straw when honor's at the stake. Well, how stand I then, that hath a father killed, a mother stained, excitements of my reason and my blood, and let all sleep, whilst to my shame I see the imminent death of 20,000 men that for a fantasy and trick of fame go to their graves like beds. Fight for a plot whereon the numbers cannot try the cause, which is not tomb enough and continent to hide the slain. Oh, from this time forth, my thoughts be bloody, or be nothing worth.
Hi everyone, hola, hola. Thank you for being with us today, celebrating the Bard of Avon, El Señor Shakespeare himself. As you already have seen in the program, we have a magnificent and part section of interviews for you all ready and prepared. And right now with me, I have the wonderful, magnificent, talented Mrs. Kate O'Connor in the house.
Okay, I can't follow that.
Kate, thank you so much for agreeing with us on being with us in this interview with us today, of course, celebrating the Bard and talking about your wonderful work in the world of costume design. You yourself have done a lot of Shakespeare. We're going to get to talk about it in a little bit. But please, Kate, I know this is a hard question to ask, but I love to put all of the artists on the spot. And of course, I'd love to get, for me to know you better and all of the viewers that we have know you better of who you are and your art form and why do you love doing it. So ready?
Okay, yes.
Kate, please tell me, how do you change the world through your art form, in this case, costume design?
Well, as I mentioned, I sort of grew up searching in a lot of different disciplines. I studied a lot of psychology and a lot of painting. And for me, there was a natural sort of connection between the two, in that, like, understanding a character, understanding a human being and how they want to be perceived in the world. And also contemplating sort of how they don't want to be perceived. So for me, it's like a deeply human conversation, and which is why I have anytime I'm working on a production, I have intensive conversations with the director and also with the performers about how they feel their character is perceived in the world, which may not be how they feel perceived as a human being and not in the character, but often I feel like there's an overlap. And for me, a very exciting part is to investigate that collaboration. And I feel like the most powerful performances come from when there's an investigation from all parties, from all collaborative parties, as to who this character is, and I don't think that it eliminates who the individual is as a human being. Like, I don't think that a character is a fictitious, imaginative entity. I think I think the most successful moments is when you can see both your own humanity and the other individual humanity in a performance. I feel like that's why live theater is so exciting. Is that, you know, it's ultimately a collaboration between the audience, the individual on stage, the playwright, the director. I mean, it's when I feel most alive is actually sitting in a space, and I'm getting a little emotional, but connecting with people on a level that is profound.
Yes, I love it. It's so powerful. Kate, thank you so much for bringing it out there and sharing it with us. You worked in a lot of forms of art. You worked in a lot of type of performances. We were talking about little seconds ago. You've done opera, you've done ballet, you've done theater, musical theater. You've done it all, and like seeing your actual renderings, your drawings, I've told you, I see your mind. Like,
no, I'm sorry about that.
I see your mind through them, like everything, like boom, blowing all over, like your amazing talent of how you portray, how you see, how you envision that character that you just mentioned, and then you go ahead and draw it and make it all so powerful and there and alive. So
Well,
we see it as audience, it's just like an awe, like I like Shakespeare's "oh," right? We go like, oh, wow.
well, you know, it's one of the, it's a field of passion for me. I mean, and it's very difficult for me to be working on a production and divorce myself from it in any way. Like, you know, just up at 3 a.m. because I can't let that idea go. And like, you know, drawing on, you know, napkins or newspapers because that idea has to come out somehow. And then it evolves and manifests in a different way. But that seed, that impulse needs to be there. And sometimes it's quite excruciating because you can't find that kernel. But when you do, it's exhilarating, and it opens a door that allows you to see this, you know, particular production in a way that you hadn't imagined it before, and it is based on the environment that's created again by the collaborators, directors, performers, you know, everyone that's working on it, and it often I feel like the most successful moment or element of design is when you're surprised by your own work, because it feels like it comes from somewhere else. And so, you know, there have been nights where I wake up at 4 a.m. and like sneak back to the drawing pad, and I'm like, did I draw this or did this come from somewhere else? Like it's like sort of otherworldly, and that's when you know it's correct. It's hard to find that sometimes, but
I love it, Kate. I love it.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's just, it's otherworldly. I mean, you know, there's no feeling quite like it, but when you can't get it, it's banging your head against the page because, you know, they need the drawings done yesterday.
It's part of the job of creating
Mm-hmm.
something out of nothing, right? There's an idea, there's
Mm-hmm.
a story.
Mm-hmm.
How do we say this story, right? How do we envision the story? And talking about the birthday boy, Mr. Shakespeare himself, and talking
hats and balloons.
Yes. Feliz cumpleaños. You've worked on a wonderful, wonderful production that we did at the Globe of Hamlet, and also we're celebrating that piece as well that's coming out on the radio, one of our productions from the old Globe. You worked on the costumes on that production. Kate, talk to me, and just how was the process? How was working with the Shakespeare piece, and especially this one in particular?
Yeah. Well, you know, again, when speaking to Barry Edelstein initially, you know, this was a piece that was incredibly close to his heart, and I was really taken with his interpretation of it, because it sort of clarified the piece to me in that this is not a world of doom and gloom. That's too coherent. That's too clear. It's not human enough. It's not, there's not enough of a juxtaposition of reality, which it seems to be like a central theme in Hamlet, is that like there's all these people living in the same world with completely different comprehensions of their mental state, the reality of the world. And so, you know, I think, you know, that we decided to break it wide open and to have this, you know, very chaotic and horrific and you know, decimating kind of scenario, celebrated, kind of flipping it, wherein that, you know, the clothes and the characters were immediately going to Mardi Gras, going to royal wedding. It's the biggest, you know, it's the coronation. It's, you know, and Hamlet in the middle of this saying like, hey, you know, I'm suffering in the middle of this. How can you be, you know, putting on your party clothes and just, you know, carrying on with the festivities?
Exactly.
Which I think, you know, pushing it to the overt in some moments, you know, in the clothes of the king and queen and the court just being like lavish and almost like they, you know, were off of a deck of playing cards. And then, you know, I felt like as an audience member, I was very connected to Hamlet. Not that he is feigning insanity, but that, like, you know, the world that's crystallizing around him would force anyone to question their sanity.
Yes, and we were talking about when you spoke with Barry initially, right? That both of you have working, Barry the director, both of you have worked on some other piece before. How he approached you with his vision of this version of Hamlet that he wanted to portray, that he wanted to keep the classic part of Hamlet of Shakespeare, of course, and submerge us in that world. But also that he spoke to you about how he envisioned it, like kind of today, contemporary. How can we bring the contemporary to this piece, right, Kate?
Yeah. Not an easy task, but a really, really enticing challenge. I mean, so in that we did keep Elizabethan silhouette, but but we you know, we amplified it to the nth degree. I mean, you know, as I was saying before, we used a lot of imagery. Like, you know, I pull on a lot of research when I work, and we looked at a lot of Jean-Michel Basquiat, who's unfortunately passed away before his time, but was a sort of graffiti artist, but brilliant. And so we used a lot of imagery from that, but also Gustav Klimt, who was like just, you know, over the top, ornate. So we were really like throwing different styles together to create something that was, I think, you know, delicious every time you saw it, and sort of jarring in the way that I feel like the character would find, you know, Hamlet would find his home. It's like everywhere I look, it's like, you know, there's fissures everywhere. Like, you know, just like this doesn't compute. But I think we did it with the audacity of grace. You know, that like you know, beauty was always like central to the aesthetic of the design, and so that was, you know, that like beauty and chaos were sort of my leading horses, and so everything was a treat or a terror for the eye, I suppose.
I love it, Kate, and something that I do love as well, and I love my job that I get to meet and talk to magnificent human beings and artists that put their heart and soul and awesome mind to their work. And it was really, really an honor to have you with us here celebrating Shakespeare, talking about Shakespeare. That's another thing that I love about my job, that we talk about Shakespeare a lot, but it's fun, and I appreciate your time, and hopefully everybody out there really enjoyed this little interview with Kate. And if you want to know more about her work, I'm pretty sure that we're going to include some information for you. Kate, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This was really fun. And thanks for making me almost cry on camera.
Oh, we're emotional human beings. We're like,
can't help it
all the time. Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
My necessaries are embarked. Farewell. And sister, do not sleep, but let me hear from you. For Hamlet, and the trifling of his favor, hold it a fashion, and a toy in blood, forward, not permanent, sweet, not lasting, no more. Think it, no more. Perhaps he loves you now, but you must fear. His greatness weighed, his will is not his own, for he himself is subject to his birth. He may not, as unvalued persons do, carve for himself, for on his choice depends the safety and the health of this whole state. Then weigh what loss your honor may sustain, if with too credent ear you list his songs, or lose your heart, or your chaste treasure open to his unmastered importunity. Fear it, Ophelia. Fear it. My dear sister.
Hi again, everyone. So I'm about to jump into sharing the Ruff-making craft with you, and you're going to need to grab some supplies. So this is what you'll need. First off, paper or coffee filters. You're also going to need some scissors, a hole punch, and finally, some string or ribbon. Now, as you assemble those, I'd like to draw your attention to the survey that is linked as part of the description of this program. We are seeking information which can be given to us completely anonymously on who you are and what you think about this or any of the programming you've seen here in the Arts Engagement social media pages for the Old Globe. Your feedback will help us build future programming and continue to help make theater matter to more and more people. Before you leave us today, if you can take a moment to share some of your feedback, we would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Okay, ready? So let's dive into our craft. Here we go. And here we are. So hopefully you all have your materials ready. But before we start, I want to do a rough overview of rough collars. Get it? Rough collars were very popular in Shakespeare's time, also known as the Elizabethan era. They were typically made from starched linen fabric and were worn by lords, ladies, and even children of high status. They were made to be removable so that they could be washed separately, so points there for efficiency. And the collars also helped frame the faces of the wearer and forced a head held high posture that reinforced the status of the person wearing it. So with that out of the way, let's get started, shall we? Okay, so there's two kinds of ruffs you can make. The first one is a little bit easier, and this is with just regular printer paper, okay? So for the first one, you're gonna grab your paper first, and then you're gonna fold it in half, vertically, like so. And then you're going to cut it along that line. There we go. So you now have two long vertical papers, right? So now, with one of these long rectangles, I'm gonna fold it in half. And then you're gonna fold it both edges outward, like this. So you're going to end up with some sort of M, which can also be a W for William Shakespeare. So now you have your W. You're going to do the same thing with the rest of your paper, okay? So let's do that right now. All right, so now that you have your 10 W's, you're going to wedge them together. And now that you have them wedged and stacked, you're going to go ahead and do a hole punch. Obviously, don't go all the way. You don't want to break your hole punch. But you can do a little hole. Every like few. Now that you have your hole punch, you're going to grab a string. I chose gold because it's very regal. You're going to pass it through the little hole. All right. And now you pass it through all the paper. Now you're going to extend it a little bit. And you can tie it around your neck. Yeah, I know it doesn't look like a ruff yet, but bear with me. So now, you're going to extend it, and you have your very own Shakespearean ruff. All right? So that's one version that you can do. If you stick around, I'm going to show you another version, okay? Okay, next up is the coffee filter version. This one, it might be a little bit more time consuming, but actually is just as easy as the other one. So this is what you're going to do. First, you're going to take your coffee filter, you're going to fold it in half, and then you're going to fold it in half again, and then you're going to fold it in half one more time. So you have this little triangle, okay? Now that you have this, you're going to cut it about an inch inward, so about here. And then you're going to hole punch that. So you have to make about, I would say, 50 of these, give or take. And then you're going to put it on the string, kind of like we did with the other one. You stack them all together to make something that looks like this. So this one looks pretty cool, huh? I really like it. It's very royal. And also, you can also do other things with it. Like for example, I had to make one for the most beautiful, most important lady of the house, right, Cosette? And I added a little bit of pink on it. You can also add some stickers to them. Just gotta go do her royal duties. And, of course, you can also add a little party hat to celebrate Shakespeare's birthday. So, I hope you make your ruff. I can't wait to see what you create. Please, if you share them on social media, be sure to tag the Old Globe, and I'll see you in a bit.
Sin of self-love possesseth all mine eye, and all my soul, and all my every part. And for this sin there is no remedy. It is so grounded inward in my heart. Methinks no face so gracious is as mine, no shape so true, no truth of such account. And for myself, mine own worth, I do define as I all other and all words surmount. But when my glass shows me myself indeed, beaded and chalked with tanned antiquity, mine own self-love quite contrary I read. Self so self-loving were iniquity. 'Tis thee, myself, that for myself I praise, painting my age with beauty of thy days.
Then let not winter's ragged hand deface in thee thy summer ere thou be distilled. Make sweet some vial, treasure thou some place with beauty's treasure ere it be self-killed. That use is not forbidden usury which happies those that pay the willing loan. That's for thyself to breed another thee. So 10 times happier, be it 10 for one. 10 times thyself were happier than thou art, if 10 of thine 10 times refigured thee. And what could death do if thou shouldst depart, leaving the living in posterity? Be not self-willed, for thou art much too fair to be death's conquest and make worms thine heir.
Hola, otra vez. Hi, everyone. It's still Shakespeare birthday's party happening here in the house of the Globe. And again, we have another magnificent and great interview prepared for you all. That with me right now, I have the super mega talented Lindsay Jones with us in the house. And of course, we're going to get to know a little bit more about Lindsay and his magnificent work that he does in our world in theater. And of course, what he has done recently with some Shakespeare work. And well, we're celebrating him, and we're celebrating the upcoming radio production of the Globe of Hamlet. Lindsay, buenos dias. How are you?
Buenos dias. Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing great. So great to see you.
We appreciate your time, and we appreciate you, of course, like coming with us and talking about your work, and of course talking about the birthday boy himself. So Lindsay, I did ask you first, you know that like I love for people to get to know you as an artist, and why do you do this, and there's a question in particular that I usually ask all the time to all of the magnificent artists that I get to talk to and meet. And please tell me, how do you change the world through your art form, in this case sound design?
Yeah, I think the way that I like to think about changing the world is, I mean, one of the wonderful things about theater is it gives the audience the opportunity to live through another's experience by seeing it on stage and really experiencing it. And so part of my job in creating that experience is creating a really emotionally connected soundscape that surrounds those audience members, so that when they're watching the show, they can really feel like they're right there in the moment, both physically, but also emotionally. And so I use music and sound to inform how characters on stage might be feeling internally in a way that they couldn't necessarily express through words, but by pairing their sort of visuals and their acting with dramatic music and sound, we get a greater window into what those characters' internal experiences are like. And then hopefully through experiencing that on stage, you can then go out into your life and think about the lessons that you have learned by seeing those stories and apply those lessons into your own life. So it's a small thing, but I think it's a really important thing.
It is wonderful. It is wonderful, Lindsay. And I was like born with music. Like my family is like very musical. I don't know if you see yourself like in your life itself. Is it a soundtrack? Like usually, like is there like music, even though there isn't music, there's music like all the time inside you?
Yes, absolutely. I totally feel like that. Yes. You know, I'm not a formally trained musician. I've never had any formal lessons of any kind. Everything I know, I've taught myself.
Wow.
And so one of the things that I like to think about, and I do think about this a lot when I'm doing both sound design and original music for plays, is that all sounds have the potential to be musical in some way. You know what I mean? I mean, even if you were to like hit a glass or bang a can or something like that, all of those sounds have the potential to have a musical quality to them. And so I do walk through the world frequently thinking about the musical qualities of sounds I hear everywhere I go. It's always entertaining and always inspiring that way.
That's magnificent. I really did imagine you that way. Like seriously, you walking and like listening to the world through your perspective, through your ears, and
putting that magnificent like talent that you have in your own way. It's like when we see the things that move us, right? What
Yes.
you in this case, sound moves you in all its forms and ways. And we love what you do. And we love that we have shared a lot of stuff with you and worked with you at the Globe with a
Yes.
lot of productions. And talking about the newest radio production that we have been working on cooking for the past month.
Yes.
We have to talk about, of course, the Bard himself. So let's honor him and his birthday. So let's talk about the Hamlet process, because I don't know if this is the first time, Lindsay, that you work in an actual radio production.
No, I've done other productions before, but this has been a really interesting process, particularly because this particular version of Hamlet was originally produced in 2017 on stage at the Globe. And so what we're really trying to do is take the experience that audiences might have had in 2017 and create a brand new experience based on what that was. But this time, instead of being in a theater and watching it with people in front of you, it is a completely oral experience only. So we're trying to translate a lot of what was in that production in a way so that you experience it through your imagination. And that's been a really exciting and fun process to figure out, like, okay, this is how they did it on stage. We can't do that here. So how do we do that? How do we convey that through audio only? It's been really challenging and really, really fun.
Well, I bet it has. And especially even though we don't know if this is going to be something that we will continue doing, like the radio productions. I mean, it's out there. We tried a lot of stuff, like this whole year made us try new things. And I think that goes with everyone, right? It made us rethink what we do and why we do it. How can we do new versions of it, right? And how can we play with the situation and take advantage of the situation and just not stop entertaining, not stop producing, not stop moving people with our stories, or with, in this case, Shakespeare's stories that are still relevant. After 400 years, we're still talking about his stories and we're still producing the man himself.
Yes.
Shakespeare, the birthday boy. Well, so it was overall a very exciting experience working with him. I know that you did the piece before, you got in depth about in the story, and you got in a little bit in depth of how he wrote and told stories to the world. Is there something that you take along with this experience for in the next years, or right now in this period, and like in your lifetime that continues with your magnificent work? Is there something that you're going to take with you like forever?
Yeah, I do think so. I think there will be. I think that you're so right about how we've all had to adapt over this last year, and we've really had to challenge ourselves to find new ways to be engaged during this time period, to really stay interactive, particularly in this time where we can't necessarily all be in the same room. Yeah. And I think one of the things that I've really learned from this experience, which has been really exciting and inspiring to me, is the idea that you really can tell a story through audio only. And you can really communicate in a way that engages an audience's imagination. When you think about people, when you go to see a play and you go into the theater and you see a set on the stage, you know that that's not really a piece of architecture. You know that that is just something that's there to help set the scene and engage your imagination. And in many ways, an audio play for the radio is similar. We're trying to create just enough detail around the performances so that as you hear the environments and you hear the music, it sort of unlocks this imagination that you have to be able to visualize it and to experience it as if you're there without actually even seeing anyone. And that's really fun and inspiring. And I sincerely hope that we all keep that in mind, that audio has tremendous potential to be a storyteller, to tell details of the story and to inspire creativity.
Most definitely. And that's the wonderful thing about what you do and why you love to do it. And well, I'm super excited and I really, really already want to hear Hamlet on the radio with everything that we have been talking about.
Yeah.
Muchísimas gracias, Lindsay. Thank you so much for your time and sharing, of course, a little bit about you, your life, and a little bit about the process of producing Hamlet on the radio. And well, hopefully we'll get to see you very, very soon in another of our actual productions, live productions, where we get to see everything, all the glitz and the glamour that we usually adore to see. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you all for watching the set of interviews that we prepared for you all. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Bye.
There's rosemary. That's for remembrance. Pray, love, remember. There's pansies. That's for thoughts. There's fennel for you and columbine. There's rue for you. And here's some for me. You must wear a rue with a difference. There's a daisy. I would give you some violets, but they withered all when my father died. They say he made a good end. And will he not come again? And will he not come again? No, he is dead. Go to thy deathbed. He will never come again. His beard was white as snow. All flaxen was his wool. He is gone, he is gone, and we cast away moan. God have mercy on his soul, and on all human souls, I pray God. God be with you.
I'm Barry Edelstein, Erna Fincy Viterbi, Artistic Director of the Old Globe, coming to you from the Old Globe's world headquarters in exile, also known as my dining room, where every year I celebrate William Shakespeare's birthday, my friend and colleague, this writer whose work I love so much. And then I head over to the Old Globe for Happy Birthday, Mr. Shakespeare, where I get to celebrate with all of you. And so virtually, here I am to talk about Shakespeare, to talk about birthdays, and to say hi to everybody. So, hi. Now, Shakespeare has a lot to say about a lot of things. Talks about life, talks about death, talks about love, talks about loss, talks about time, talks about the world, talks about history, talks about leadership. He doesn't have a whole lot to say about birthdays. If you go to a list of every word that's in Shakespeare, there are these big books, it's called a concordance, where it lists every single word that's in Shakespeare, tells you where it appears, hundreds of thousands of words. And you look up the word birth, you'll find that it's in Shakespeare 102 times. Now, the man wrote 36 plays. Each play has something like 3,000 lines. Each line has, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 words. Million words in Shakespeare. But the word birth, 102. The word day, about 1,000. About 1,000, but that's like, what day is it? And, what do we think about today? And so on. So birth, 102, day, 1,000. The word birthday in Shakespeare, 2 times. That's it. Only 2 occurrences of the word birthday in Shakespeare. I don't know, maybe he was shy. Here's one. This is from a play called Julius Caesar. This is my birthday, as this very day was Cassius born. Well, that's not exactly to be or not to be. That is the question, It's not exactly what is this quintessence of dust. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players, but soft what light through yonder window breaks. None of that. This is my birthday, as this very day was Cassius born. That's birthday number 1. Here's birthday number 2. It is my birthday. It is my birthday? That doesn't sound like Shakespeare. That sounds like, me on March 11th. It is my birthday. That's the interesting thing about Shakespeare. Not everything about him is blah, 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 thou wilt, thou dost. Some of it's just pretty straightforward English, like, it is my birthday. But still, without the word birthday in the canon, what are we going to do today? Well, there's a line that I always use when a friend of mine hits another click in the mileage of life. And I say, okay, Shakespeare didn't use the word birthday, but here's something interesting that Shakespeare can talk about. This is from one of his sonnets. Here's what you say to Shakespeare or anybody else on their birthday. To me, fair friend, you never can be old, for as you were when first your eye I eyed, such seems your beauty still. So that's what you say to somebody on your birthday. You're not getting old. You look exactly the same as you did the first time I saw you, when first your eye I eyed. There's some clever Shakespeare, right? Your eye I eyed. To me, fair friend, you never can be old. For as you were when first your eye I eyed, such seems your beauty still. So happy birthday, William, with a few lines of your very own. You didn't give us much to go with on birthdays, but you did give us that. You gave us another really good line, one of my total favorite Shakespeare lines. Much virtue in if. My favorite, so great, especially if you're doing any kind of work that's imaginative. Much virtue in if. It's a good thing to say the word if. Wouldn't it be great if we could land a man on the moon? Hey, that's the beginning of the process of getting Apollo 11 there. Wouldn't it be great if we could have more love and peace in the world? Wouldn't it be great if people treated each other with kindness? Shakespeare's saying that's a good thing. Ask if. Ask if there's a better way to do things. Ask if there's some other possibility. Now,
The thing about that line comes from a play called As You Like It, and it's spoken by a clown, a fool, and not much of what he says makes a whole lot of sense. So one of the hazards of quoting lines of Shakespeare is that sometimes you take them out of context. And here on Shakespeare's birthday, I want to bring you to a quote from Hamlet, because we're looking forward to Hamlet on the radio, and I'm going to pull it out of context too. It's a big speech about death, and I'm sorry here on a beautiful morning to do that, but we can pull Shakespeare out of context and make it do things other than what Shakespeare meant. And to get to Hamlet, let me show you an example of exactly what I mean. And to do that, we're going to go there to Omaha, Nebraska, right in the middle of our great country. Barry, this is a program about William Shakespeare. What are we doing in Omaha, Nebraska? Well, bear with me. In Omaha, there it is, gorgeous place, got a river, blue sky, got to go there one day. Looks like an awfully nice city. They just had an election for a new mayor last week, Omaha. I don't know why in April, but they have their own way of doing things there. And I just happened to, I have this Google alert for quoting Shakespeare. Anytime anybody quotes Shakespeare, I get a little Google alert because I love to collect the different ways in which people talk about Shakespeare in their lives. And so 2 weeks ago, up in my inbox appears Omaha, Nebraska in the context of quoting Shakespeare. And I said, I got to check this out. So that guy, his name is Mark Gudgel. He's running for mayor of Omaha, Nebraska. And here's what the local TV station said on April 5th, 2021, just 2.5 weeks ago. Gudgel said that he's candid and often uses a quote from Shakespeare that he teaches to his students that he says best describes himself. So guy's running for mayor, and he's trying to talk about why you should vote for him. And he says, Shakespeare's got a great quote for me to use to describe it. He says, quote, one that comes from Othello that I think describes me really well is that I wear my heart on my sleeve. You don't ever wonder where I stand on something. I'm open and honest about it. Gudgel said, I wear my heart on my sleeve. Indeed, that comes from the play Othello, except it's spoken by that guy on the right, Iago. I mean, just check out the mustache on that guy, the sneer on his face. The single most evil character in all of Shakespeare. And this dude is quoting him to try and get people to vote for him to be the mayor of Omaha. There's the quote. In following him, I follow but myself. That's Iago talking about Othello, his general. In following him, I follow but myself. Heaven is my judge, not I for love and duty, but seeming so for my peculiar end. For when my outward action doth demonstrate the native act and figure of my heart in compliment extern, 'tis not long after, but I will wear my heart upon my sleeve for daws to peck at. I am not what I am. So Iago is saying, I keep to myself, and my outward behavior is very different from what I privately think. And if it ever happens that my outward behavior matches what I inwardly think, well, then I'm going to take my insides, my heart, and I'm going to put it on my sleeve for a daw to come and eat. I am not what I am. So Iago's saying that wearing your heart on your sleeve is a terrible thing to do because it shows the world what you truly think, which is what you should not do. You should hide yourself if you're going to be an evil guy like me. And there's poor Mark Gudgel running for mayor of Omaha, quoting Iago, and finding out that really what Shakespeare says means the exact opposite of what he thought. So here comes my quote from Hamlet, and by the way, Mr. Gudgel did not win the race. He's back teaching high school. I really wonder if he's teaching Othello. I don't know. But I don't want to make the same mistake that he did. And so I freely confess, this is a quote that's about dying and about the right time to die. But I'm going to pull it out because it's actually a fantastic quote for where we are in the world right now as the pandemic, thank goodness, finally, at long last, is winding down. And this is Hamlet in honor of the Old Globe's Hamlet on the Radio for Shakespeare's birthday. Hamlet says, if it be now, 'tis not to come. If it be not to come, it will be now. If it be not now, yet it will come. The readiness is all. So he's talking about his death, but I'm talking about the end of the pandemic. If it be not now, if the pandemic doesn't end now, 'tis not to come. I'm sorry, if it be now, 'tis not to come. If the pandemic ends today, then it's not going to end in the future because it will have ended today. If it be not to come, if it's not going to end in the future, it will be now. If it be not to come, it will be now. And if it be not now, yet it will come. If the pandemic doesn't end now, it's going to end eventually. So if it ends now, then it's done. If it's not going to end in the future, then it's going to end now. And if it doesn't end now, it's going to end one day. And here's the key. The readiness is all. What matters is we be ready. We are ready. Getting the globe coming back to life. Putting Hamlet out on the radio. Celebrating the birthday of William Shakespeare just like we do in normal times. We are ready for the world to start spinning forward again. Because as Hamlet himself tells us, the readiness is all. So I leave you with that. The readiness is all. Get ready, folks, because it's coming. Meanwhile, happy birthday, dear William. Happy birthday to you. Thank you, everyone.
And that is our show for today. Thank you to everyone that joined in sharing their love of Shakespeare and Hamlet and theater. And a big thanks to the artists and the behind-the-scenes folks for making today possible. One more little reminder, if you can give us some feedback on today's program, we'd really, really appreciate it. You can find a survey link in today's show description. And finally, if you have your cake, let's make a toast to William Shakespeare for giving us so much wonderful art for so long, and wish the happiest of birthdays to him on April 23rd, when we'll be premiering our Hamlet on the Radio event on KPBS. Make sure to check it out. Now I gotta go eat this cake. Hope to see you all real soon. Bye!